normal. When Akhenaten was born, he looked abnormal. He didn't look like a normal, typical Egyptian man. There's something interesting about him, okay? His body type was very weird and very strange, very different. His face was different. His eyes were different. His skull was elongated. He had a very long skull. But he was black. He's a black man. But he just didn't have typical Homo sapien features. He had some very odd features. Why? Nobody knows the answer. We don't know. We know that he became a zealot for Amun-Ra, for Aten, the sun god. He became a zealot. And he ordered everyone to start defacing all of the statues of other gods, you know, Osiris and Horus and Thoth and anybody, you know, Seth and all these people. He wanted them all chipped away, chip away their faces, chip away the noses, chip away the ears. And so if you go to Egypt with me, I'm going to take you to the temples and take you all around Egypt, where you're going to see that the majority of these statues and structures have been chipped under the order of Akhenaten. Pharaoh Akhenaten ordered that because he was told that there would be only one God, and that would be Aten, a.k.a. Amun-Ra, okay? A.k.a. in the Sumerian and Babylonian epics, Marduk. In the Jewish Torah, his name is Marduk as well. Same name, same person. So pretty interesting that this man here really like puts his foot down after he learns this teaching and really becomes a zealot for this religion, this one God religion, and really tries to erase all the history of ancient Egypt and the people of Kem. And so what happens is the people around him, their leaders and so forth, they're like, in generals, they're like, man, wait a minute, this guy's erasing all of our freaking history. And this is not the way we've been raised for, you know, millennia. So they find a way to kick him out of there. They all gang up on him. They kick him out. But before he leaves, he takes the Ark of the Covenant out of the Great Pyramid. It sits inside of a stone box inside the Great Pyramid. It's part of the power source of the Great Pyramid. He takes it with him, which makes Egypt's power source turn off. That's why the Pharaoh chased after him in the chariots. He didn't cross the Red Sea. He crossed the Sea of Reeds, a much smaller, closer sea. If you read the text, if you go to the real text, not the mistranslated Bible, you find out what really happened. And that's where they chased him down. Pretty interesting story. Pretty interesting. So this is the gentleman that's really Moses. This is the Moses of the Bible, Pharaoh Akhenaten. Okay, this is him. This is his wife, or was his wife, Nefertiti. Interesting picture here. This is her body. Okay, the head on this one is missing. But you can clearly see from the body that sister had it going on. Man, she had it really going on. Very voluptuous, need I say. Nefertiti was a queen of the 18th dynasty of ancient Egyptian and the great royal wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten. Nefertiti and her husband were known for a religious revolution in which they worshipped solely the sun disk, Aten, as the only god. Okay? As the only God. One God religion. Monotheism. This is the beginning of won't he do it? This is the beginning. This is the beginning of won't he do it? Archaeologists found the statue that was later discovered to be the lower body of Queen Nefertiti. That's her lower body part. Okay. What was interesting about Queen Nefertiti, she also had one of these big, long, elongated heads as well. Pretty interesting. So you see the family bloodline here that we're talking about. We're talking about Amenhotep III. I didn't put Thutmose IV up here. You see Queen Nefertiti, she is the stepmother of King Tut. She wasn't the original mother of King Tut. King Tut's original mother is still a question mark. We do know that after DNA test was done, there is some European blood in King Tut, even though he was black. But that means nothing because a lot of black people lived in Europe anyway. Black people lived all over the entire planet. And then you see Pharaoh Akhenaten. King Tut is here. These are all at the museum. You see him holding his staff. This is King Tut, the dark black man here holding the staff. That's King Tut. And you see his grandmother, Queen Taye. Okay, King Tut statue from the Cairo Museum, holding a staff, son of Akhenaten, stepmother Nefertiti, grandson of King of Amenhotep III, and Queen Taye. So that's the family bloodline right there. Very interesting family, because this is the family that literally is responsible for monotheism on Earth. That's why I started with this family first, because there's just a crazy story. This family right here is the family that started monotheism, a one-god religion. Prior to this, people believed in multiple gods, right? And multiple beings and entities and deities and so forth and so on. But the religion that is taking over the majority of the planet came out of Kim. And it started right here with these people right here. This is who started it. This is the origin of it right here. Why is this like that? Let me see. It's all over the place. So let me go back. This is their daughters. Now they had 6 daughters. I wonder why the it's supposed to be set up in this particular organization. But anyway, look at the depiction of the daughters. There's 6 daughters of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. They all look like this. They were all bald. Then they had these gigantic skulls, and it wasn't skull binding. They were born this way. There's images of them etched into stone in the glyphs with them as babies, already having these huge heads. Okay, already having them. There's no way for me to move this out the way, but there's 5 other photos behind this. All of them are depictions of the different daughters, and each daughter has the same exact shaped head. Very bulbous. If you look from the front view, you can see how it kind of swells up on the sides. They had more brain mass than an average human being. In some strange way, they seem to have been slightly different. Starting with Pharaoh Akhenaten and his wife Nefertiti, who both had elongated skulls. And then looking down into their kids, their daughters all having these huge elongated skulls. Still being black people, but in some strange way, not quite the same as an average person, having this extra brain mass, making them most likely very highly intelligent, because more brain usually means more intelligence in most cases. That's just a hypothesis. That's not a fact that I read anywhere. Just my hypothesis. Pretty interesting. I wish I could show you the other heads here. I don't wonder why I covered it up like that. It's pretty strange. Then you have King Tut. King Tutankhamun, okay, commonly referred to as King Tut, was an ancient Egyptian pharaoh who was the last of his royal family to rule during the end of the 18th dynasty. That's the end of the Old Kingdom. During the New Kingdom of Egyptian history, his father, believed to be the pharaoh Akhenaten, identified as the mummy found in the tomb KV55. This is really the end of like the old era, but right before really the new era started to really begin. This was like the end of it, actually. And what's interesting is this is King Tut's X-ray of his skull. So you look at the X-ray of his skull, and it's pretty interesting because he also had an elongated skull, even though Nefertiti was not his mother. What in the world is causing their skulls to all of a sudden change to this shape without skull binding? Again, because we know skull binding takes, it's done at birth, and it takes a very long time. The thing about skull binding is you don't get cranial mass. You actually shrink the size of the cranium with skull binding. We know Paraka skulls, which I have one in her house here. Maybe I'll bring it down when I show you guys. I've put it online many times. They have more brain mass because the skull actually expanded. It didn't shrink. These skulls, King Tut, his 5 sisters, 6 sisters, I'm sorry, his stepmother, and his father all had these elongated skulls. It's like they just came out of nowhere. Nobody knows how or why. Interestingly enough, DNA test was done on King Tut's body. Part of the DNA came back as non-terrestrial. They didn't say extraterrestrial. They didn't say ET. It said non. In other words, they don't know where the DNA comes from. Part of the human DNA in King Tut is non-terrestrial. Okay? That's a scientific fact. You can't deny it. You can't hide from it. You can't run from it. It's real science. It's in the books. Interesting. Pretty interesting. And what is the correlation between these skulls these massive skulls